Zero is basically our main character, since we can't use ourselves in combat, and the devs saw fit to make her really good, as well as to give us all of her dupes for free, as well as her signature weapon. And if that's not a good enough reason to use her, then how about the fact that she's just an awesome character? Flat affect, cares about nothing at all in this world except one thing, her singular, all-encompassing duty to protect us. I'm Shrike, subscribe for more gacha content, let's dive into Zero. As the experienced devs they are, they knew not to make our free character a DPS. Those always get power crept. So to ensure that Zero remains useful for as long as possible, they made her a solid support unit. And we'll keep that in mind while we're building her. And speaking of which, let's talk about her build. The suggested build utilizes Outstanding Herbalist as her 10-piece and River of Oblivion as one of her 5 pieces. Now this suggests a support-heavy build where she won't be on the field too often, but the River suggests that when she is on the field she'll be focusing on Anomaly. And if that's the case, let's give her a Golden Branch as her second 5-piece. The problem with this though is how you have to place them in the grid. It's ugly if I'm being honest, and it hurts my eyes. It forces you to use a whole bunch of 1-pieces, and so I'm not sure if this is the most efficient. So I'm going to cheat a bit and peek ahead at her kit and tell you that she uses a good amount of charge damage, so it may be more efficient to replace the branch with Dragon Essence, sacrificing a little on the Anomaly front. But as I'm pretty strapped for resources, having built so many units for these guides, I'm just gonna have to keep this on her. I know I can break them down, and I may later on, but for now I'm not really challenging any content that's going to require me to sweat that hard, so I'm not really concerned. Actually, as a bonus, if you use Dragon Essence, you'll be able to fit another of this shape in there, or even a Shining Star, to just help her build up her ultimate. This is probably what I'd do if I had the pieces. Though from my playing around, it still leaves 4 spots speckled around the grid that we'd need to place 1s into. Maybe there's an orientation that gets 3 of them together so we can use a 3-piece and a 1-piece, but since 3 pieces don't have a mark bonus, it really doesn't matter at that point. The end stats would be the same anyway. But now let's look at her skills. I'll tell you, looking at Zero's skills right after doing Logos' guide is a breath of fresh air. There are steps to follow, but even so, it's very straightforward and beginner friendly. Great for a free character that we all get. So her basic attack is just a basic attack. Nothing special at all. Yet. Now her skill 1. So what this does is some damage, and then it enhances itself so you can hit it again and use a boosted version. It's a 1-2 punch that builds up her skill 2 meter about halfway. Yeah, you can't use her skill 2 until the meter is filled up. Then, now this is where it gets really interesting. When her meter is full, her skill 2 will glow, and if you hit this once, it will put Zero into a kind of an in-between mode where she's ready to activate her big attack, which you would do by hitting skill 2 again. But if you wait, while you're in this in-between mode, your basic attack is enhanced, boosted. It's all glowy and does more damage and anomaly buildup. Her kit says that during this mode she'll slowly lose that skill 2 meter, but I haven't noticed anything of the sort. As far as I can tell, you can hang out in this mode only using the souped up basic attack and skill 1, if you feel like it, for quite a while. And when you're ready to leave the mode, you activate skill 2 a second time, which will give your team buffs as well as do a good amount of damage. The passive is the reason she enters that in-between mode. It's what pumps up her basic attack, and it's also what allows you to do a sneaky little slam attack once you activate the big skill 2. I'll explain that in the combat section. And her ultimate just does damage. I'm loving this game for making the general kits really interesting and creative, and sometimes complicated, but making the ultimates just big attacks. Even healers, their ultimates just do damage. I'm sure there are exceptions, of course, like Li Che that serves as a way for him to heal, but for the most part, it's the rest of the kit that you build for. Very rarely are you just building to get to the ultimate as soon as possible. Okay, and with those fresh in our minds, which skills do you think are most important? Skills 1 and 2, obviously. And then I think probably her passive. I want to say her basic attack, because I know I'll be using that enhanced basic a lot, but I'm pretty sure increasing her passive, which affects that buffed basic, will enhance it more than if you were to just level up the basic. But I could be wrong. Still, the passive will affect more things than the basic attack, so it's probably still more important to upgrade than the basic. I'd save that, the ultimate, and the combo for last. The ultimate's just kind of meh, you'll use it if it's there, and yeah, if you build her for DPS, then prioritize that over the basic and combo. but it's not really central to her kit in the role of a supporter. Okay, we're finally at combat. This one won't be as complicated as some of the others, but there are still things to learn. Namely, let me reiterate this from the skills section. You want to fill up her skill 2 meter so that you can use it twice and make the big boom. You do that by double skill 1ing and then double skill 1ing again. That's when you'll hit skill 2 to ready her big attack. But before you fire, feel free to use her boosted basic attack. It's a good way to build up Anomaly. Then when you're ready, hit skill 2 again, and if you're feeling fancy, spam the basic attack while the animation's happening. If you time it right, she'll finish the animation with a big air smash for extra damage. It's not necessary, but it's a nice neat little flair. Again, 4 skill 1s, skill 2 to enhance the basic, then skill 2 to finish off. Once activated though, this is the skill that's going to give your team all their buffs. The second activation of the skill 2. It'll grant your team an attack bonus and a crit damage bonus. So once you use it, get out of there. Bring your DPS in and smash face. Unless 0 is your DPS for some reason. And that's your rotation for 0. Very simple. Flashing lights and birds might confuse you, but it's really not much more complicated than that. Moving on to teams. Sure, 0 can be a solid support buffer for any team. And she's often the best choice. Although I typically use Hefe more than her because I just prefer Hefe's playstyle. But taking a look at the buffs she adds, we can narrow it down a bit. Attack and crit damage. This may be a hot take, but I don't think she's great with a fully built Licha. And I stress, a fully built one. And the reason for that is that he already gets so much crit damage in his kit that it might be overcapped with her buff, making it not as efficient. I think she's much better with other units like Florence, so a Hefe 0 Florence team would crush. And I'm actually starting to be a little less reliant on a traditional healer, since Hefe and Ninsar both contain a heal in their kit that can save you in a pinch. So a team like this would be just fine in my opinion. I could also see a quick swap team with a DPS 0 and Nana and Viola. I don't have Viola to test it out, but 3 essentially sub-DPSs could be just as effective as one dedicated DPS with all those buffs. Zero's affinity for Anomaly does mean you're likely to keep her with Hefe though, but then you just pick up your favorite DPS to helm the team and go smash face. But that's it. That's Zero in a nutshell. I hope it helped. And with that being said, I'm gonna fly now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.